Buen día y bienvenidos a la conferencia anual de los programas de los ancianos del Estado de Nuevo México. Algo que el Departamento de los Ancianos estatalmente ha estado haciendo ya hace bastantes años y pues nosotros y como también otros han participado proveyendo algo de la música. Esa canción era no canción, sino una marcha, la marcha de los novios, pienso que es, ¿verdad? Y queremos comenzar con otra canción de Nuevo México que fue escrita por Amadeo Lucero de Dixon, Nuevo México. La canción fue considerada por la legislatura estatal para que fuera la canción en el idioma español oficial del Estado de Nuevo México. Aquí le va la canción de Amadeo Lucero, Así es Nuevo México. Que traigo muy dentro del alma, lo canto a mi estado, mi tierra natal. De flores doradas, mi tierra encantada, de lindas mujeres que no tiene igual. Así es Nuevo México, así es esta tierra al sol. Tierras y valles y tierras brutales, así es Nuevo México. Dale una buena. Que es el río Grande, sus aguas corrientes llegan hasta el mar y riegan sus campos, mi tierra encantada, de lindas mujeres que no tienen igual. Mi tierra encantada, de historia bañada, tan linda y tan bella sin comparación. Te rindo cariño, te rindo homenaje, soldado valiente te rinde su amor. Así es Nuevo México, así es esta tierra del sol, de sierras y valles y tierras brutales. Así es Nuevo México. Así es Nuevo México, así es esta tierra del sol, de sierras y valles y tierras brutales. Así es Nuevo México. ¡Qué lindo Nuevo México, señor! And we're just really happy that everybody is getting together, although virtually. What does virtually mean? Not live. It means not live. It also means not dead, because we're hoping the music is good enough to where people can enjoy it throughout the state of New Mexico, on your TV, right? On your TV and on your radio. I'd like to introduce a couple of my compañeros here. Let's see, on my right, Jeremías Martínez. Jeremías, ¿de dónde viene?
Del pie de la montaña de Truchas, Nuevo México.
Truchas, Nuevo México. Y pues el hermano David el doctor David García. Y David García, ¿dónde nació?
Pues nací aquí en el Hospital de Presbyterian, aquí en Española, pero mi lugar donde yo considero mi terruño, de donde soy, se llama San Antonio del Huache.
San Antonio de
El Huache.
El Huache. El Huache, I mean, es un wash, yo creo, ¿no? Como un arroyo o como un río o algo así, ¿no?
Sí, algo así.
Qué bien. Y cuando te conocí estabas trabajando por Northern New Mexico Community College, que bueno, era lo que le llamaban en aquellos tiempos la escuela normal, situada en el Rito. Mi papá fue a la escuela ahí a aprender a ser maestro, es lo que hacían ahí, ¿no? Le enseñaban a los hispanoamericanos a que fueran maestros a todo alrededor del estado. Allí como también en Highland University. Pues hay varios colegios, varias universidades a través del estado, desde Silver City a Las Cruces, a Portales, a Las Vegas, aquí, y luego branches por donde quiera. Pero la que más originalmente se considera donde mucha de nuestra gente del norte fue en el Rito. Y ahora mismo hay todavía clases ahora en el Rito.
Siguen abriendo pues ese campus para estudiantes, para que estudien diferentes carreras. Y pues tengo mucho orgullo de decir, pues ahorita estoy trabajando con the New Mexico Acequia Association y nos vamos a muchos lugares del estado a ayudar a los parciantes de las acequias o las comisiones, y también que es muy importante esto de nuestra cultura, tiene una raíz en la tierra y también en el agua, y por eso con su permiso quería cantar una canción que habla de las acequias.
Muy bien, esto te dejamos hacerlo, y tienes un instrumento muy único,
Muy viejo.
casi no vemos cantar con este instrumento, pero está muy apropiado para eso de las acequias, porque se sacan las acequias anualmente a
Sí.
través del estado. Vamos a decir que existen arriba de 400 acequias a través del estado. A ver, cántanos la canción de las acequias.
Pues la pala pues es un instrumento para trabajar, para jalar, pero también cuando uno está descansando se puede también hacer música. Yo digo que cantamos esta canción no a capela, pero a capala.
Capala.
Entonces esta canción va dedicada a todos los peones de la acequia que hacen la limpia anual, también le dicen la saca de la acequia durante la primavera. A veces hacen limpieza en otros tiempos del año, pero va dedicada a todas las acequias de Nuevo México.
Y
Y que
también
viva la
a todos
acequia.
los mayordomos y también a todos los miembros de los cuerpos de las acequias.
Ya viene amaneciendo, yo sigo trabajando para mantener lo que yo quiero tanto. Ya vamos a la sequía van todos. Agarra ya la pala para limpiar el bordo. Agarra ya la pala para limpiar el bordo. Limpiaremos la acequia para traer el agua. En la primavera el agua es vida. En la primavera preparemos el jardín, las semillas sembramos de frijol, maíz y chile, y luego las regamos de frijol, maíz y chile, y luego las regamos. Ya llegó el otoño, la siembra pepenamos y damos las gracias por todo lo del campo. Y damos las gracias por todo lo del campo. ¡Que vivan las acequias!
¡Que vivan! ¡Que vivan las Mercedes!
¡Que vivan!
The history of New Mexico is rather old. It goes all the way back to what were those gigantic animals, the dinosaurs. No, there's a lot of different dinosaurs whose remains are found in different parts of the state of New Mexico. There's a lot of them around Tucumcari, a lot of them over by Ghost Ranch, and a lot of them in a lot of the land grant throughout the state of New Mexico. The indigenous people of New Mexico have been here longer than, of course, the Spanish or the Europeans that came from across the United States. And let me just say that with respect to the indigenous people, it's important for us to know that there are many Indian pueblos throughout the state. In fact, there's 19 different Indian pueblos and 3 other tribes. We have the pueblos all the way from Picuris, all the way to Zia, all the way to Sandia, and in between there are 8 pueblos in Sandoval County, for example, and in the north. And you know, people say that New Mexico is a bilingual state. Nada. Much more than that, because the indigenous pueblos have a total of 8 other languages, all the way from Picuris, all the way down to Sandia, and everything in between. And then, of course, the Spanish and the English languages. Nosotros, we consider ourselves to be bilingual. We think that that's a big thing, but in a lot of the pueblos, they are really multilingual because they also speak the various languages, including the ones spoken in the pueblos and the one in the other tribes, like, for example, the Navajo and the Apache, which has 2 areas, the Jicaria Apache and down around Roswell, the Mescalero. And it's just so interesting that you continue to learn a lot about the state of New Mexico. I have written a book or published a book just called Nuevo Mexico, an anthology of New Mexico history that is written not chronologically, but rather it's in different parts. There's 8 different parts that begin with the dinosaurs era, and then the indigenous people, and then the part where we have the different languages. And so there's a lot of people that have written, books keep coming out about the state of New Mexico, about some people just think that the unique thing is the courthouse raid in Tierra Maria, but that was just a very small part of all the work that has been done uh, by the Land Grant Council, the Land Grant Forum, and now there's an organization of land grants throughout the state. There were about 297 different land grants that were given, either by Mexico before 1821 or by Spain before that. Let's see, no, Mexico got its independence from Spain in 1821, but you know, there were land grants that were given. Many of them were private land grants given to families. Many of them were given to a community. And there are probably 30 to 50 land grants that are still very, very active. Let's talk about a minute. Let's talk a minute. Well, a lot of times I do what this lady down in Las Cruces at the senior center told me once, and she said, of all the things I've ever lost, I miss my mind the most. And that's where you get to a certain point in there. We are. There's a dicho in Spanish, and well, actually it's an adivinanza, which is a riddle, and it says, ¿Qué es la vejez? What is old age? And the answer is destornudar, toser, y preguntar qué hora es. It is to sneeze. Oh, what is old age? It is to sneeze and cough and to ask what time it is. And that's where we are at the present time. At my age, I was raised by my grandfather, as many young children that grew up to be old like your grandfather, like I was. I learned so much from him, especially when it comes to folklore, music, songs, and sayings, los dichos, and riddles, las adivinanzas, and of course history. And you learn a lot from just being a part of an old person's life. Thank you for keeping on participating on at the local level, the senior citizen centers throughout the state, the people at the state level that work with the Council on Aging, and of course, together with the children, youth, and families, because that is what does it. The things that you learn from the viejitos and the viejitas too, you know. And so here we have, I can just imagine the people that are listening, the people that are watching this video, and I see people from Clovis, I see people from Las Cruces and Silver City, people from the north, que incluyen desde Taos, el condado de Río Arriba, Guadalupe, San Miguel. How did they get there? Well, the indigenous people were there. The Hispanics started coming here after they settled in Mexico and then started moving north in through what is called El Camino Real de Tierra Adentro. Tierra Adentro means the land inside, between the oceans. And coming from Mexico City, from Santa Barbara, through El Paso del Norte, and a lot of places along the way, close to Truth of Consequences and Socorro now, that they came through there, and many of them died because of the terrible things that they had to go through on the way. And so, but when they got to Socorro, they were welcomed and by the people in that area, and that's why they named that Socorro. What does the word Socorro means? Help.
Aid or help.
Aid, yeah. And so that's where that name comes from. A lot of the cities and villages throughout the state of New Mexico have Spanish names. Las Vegas means the meadows. Portales means porches. And so on and so forth. Las Cruces, it means the crosses. And as you go throughout the state of New Mexico, you find that there usually is a basis for the names that they get. I don't know about Chimayo, where we are right now. I guess that's been the name traditionally and originally. Chimayo, a lot of people visit here because they want to get a taste of the culture and the religion and the history. Chimayo, people come and they take a little bit of the holy dirt. Okay, now is there any science to the holy dirt? I think that there is, because originally it was a spring that had mineral water, and the local population at that time would come here and would utilize that water from that spring, you know, to rub on their legs if they had a hurt hip and anything that hurt, anything that ails you. People do believe that the dirt that is there where that spring originally was is now also blessed dirt. And I have to tell you something personal. When I got married in 1968, we went to Las Vegas to get married, and my grandmother was my, what do you call it, best lady, and my uncle was the best man at our wedding, and my uncle and I went rabbit hunting that day when my wife Belle at that time and I came back to Albuquerque. We lived on 15th Street. We walked in, and my pistol that I had went off, and it hit right below the knee on my left foot. And it took a long time for me to heal. But I was in the New Mexico legislature at that time, in 1968. I was elected in 1966 when I was 26 years old. And so from the legislature, I would come here and I would get some holy dirt and put on it. And it didn't take very long before I was able to get healed from the wound. 16 pieces of the bullet are still spread throughout the leg, but it doesn't hurt anymore. Thank you, Santuario de Chimayo, and the blessed dirt that there is in that little pocito. Let's go to another song. What do you have next there that looks like it'd be a good song?
Maestro,
¿Ah?
vamos a hacer el cántico a la Virgen. Buenos días, Paloma Blanca.
Bueno, yeah. This is Mañanitas a la Virgen, also known as Buenos Días, Paloma Blanca. Buenos días, Paloma Blanca, hoy te vengo a saludar, saludando tu belleza en tu reino celestial. Eres madre del Creador, te doy con amor. Buenos días, paloma blanca. Niña linda, niña santa, tu dulce nombre al dar, porque soy tan sacrosanta, hoy te vengo a saludar. Reluciente como el alma, sencilla y sin mancha, qué gusto recibe mi alma. Buenos días, paloma blanca. ¡Viva David García! ¡Que viva yo! ¡Qué linda está la mañana! El aroma de las flores. Respiren suaves olores antes de romper el alba. Mi pecho con voz ufana, gracias de la madre mía, en este dichoso día, antes de romper el alba. Otra vuelta.
Viva nuestra Madre María Santísima.
¡Que viva! ¡Que viva Yogi Bhajan! Cielo azul, cielo conmigo en este dichoso día, a que prestes tu hermosura a las flores de María. Madre mía de Guadalupe, dame ya tu bendición, recibe estas mañanitas de un humilde corazón. ¡Que viva Jeremías! Que vivan todos los ancianos. Long live the old people, and may they get even older.
And wiser.
I was raised by my grandfather. Then I was the director of the Council on Aging. I was in the legislature since '66 to '70. Elected lieutenant governor in 1970. Then the following 4 years, I worked under Jerry Apodaca and was the director of the Council on Aging. Was elected and then another 4 years as lieutenant governor. And then I need to say that all of the things that I know and that I love about the elderly have to do with all three things. What three things? My grandfather was like my parent. I was director of the program that dealt with the programs for the elderly. And now, guess what? In July, these gentlemen went over to my house and they sang Mañanitas to me before I even got up. It's a good thing I had already put on something besides my shorts. Because they and several other people that are musicians, several people that my compañera now, my wife passed away back in 2013, but my compañera is Dr. Diana Garcia, who is a psychologist and works out of the University of New Mexico in places like Cochiti and Santo Domingo Pueblo, she gathered this group together, and I got up and she told me some story that wasn't true, but wanted to get me outside, and sure enough, my front yard was full of people. This guy here composed, he composed a corrido for me. A corrido is a ballad. And, I thought, well, corrido should be about maybe 6, at the most 8 verses. How many verses did you write?
I think 9.
Huh? So you didn't write 9. It's like about 30 or 50, I don't know. I enjoyed it very much. I don't know where he found out all that information about me. I think he made some of that up. At any rate, what other song do we have on there on the list?
Vamos a hacer, maestro, la canción de Don Cedero.
De Don Cedero? Oh, okay. My father went to El Rito to learn to be a teacher, where they were teaching Spanish Americans how to teach, and it was called the normal school. None of the other schools were normal. This was normal. No, they call it a normal school because it is a place where people learn how to be teachers. He went to school there, and it was about 1926 that the first vehicle that he ever saw went by El Rito, and he wrote a song in Spanish, but threw in a few words in English that were parts of the car. It's called Mi Carrito Paseado, my little riding car. Tengo un carro muy paseado, que no lo ha experimentado, no lo sabe hacer rodar. No más tomo yo el asiento, se levanta como el viento, casi lo hago hasta volar. Tiene los fenders ladeados y los tires bien gastados, tiene el techo de cartón. Tiene roto el radiator, descompuesto el generator, se quebró la transmisión. No tiene ni batería, se la quité el otro día porque estaba hasta al revés. Y aunque el starter se atranque, le echo el agua y le doy cranque, y aquí voy volando en tren. El otro día allá en la mesa se me puso en la cabeza de salir a andar por ahí. Le eché agua a mi cucaracha, prendí un fósforo a mi bacha y salí volando en high. Llegué derecho al atarque, le bajé todo el esparque y al llegar se me murió. Le buscaba yo aquel carro, no le hallaba más que sarro entre las bandas del low. A un hombre que ahí pasaba, lo llamé pa' donde estaba y le di mi parecer. Yo le doy este espantajo pa' que lo tire al carajo donde no lo vuelva a ver. Yo le doy este espantajo pa' que lo tire al carajo donde no lo vuelva a ver. Mi carro paseado. We'd like to do at least one more song here that is a very popular song. It was done by, what was his name? Carlos. When the Pope came to Mexico City, he wrote the song. I was going to say amigo, but I don't think we practiced that one.
Y vamos a hacer la canción de Jeremías.
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah, it's Nuevo Mexico también, ¿no? Okay, another New Mexico song. Jeremías is from Truchas, New Mexico. Yeah. What are truchas? Truchas are fishes. Thank you. We have a little bit of an audience here as well, but our audience is throughout the state of New Mexico. Thanks to, what do they call it now, the Commission on Aging or the Aging Bureau?
Aging and Long-Term Services Department.
I didn't hear a thing you said because I don't have my hearing aids on.
Aging and Long-Term Services Department.
Oh, long-term care. Okay, department. Thank you. Thank you, long-term services. Thank you a los chimayosos que estén aquí con nosotros hoy and other people that have joined us. Pero mainly, thank you for coming and being a part virtually of this particular program today.
Que viva Nuevo México.
¡Que viva!
Qué bonito es ser nuevo mexicano, nuestra cultura es siempre amarnos como hermanos. Es la tierra más bendita de este mundo, mi país tan profundo es mi nuevo México.
¡Viva Nuevo México!
Eres
La tierra más linda de este mundo, Nuestra Señora de Rosario eres tú. Yo vivo aquí al pie de la montaña, aquí estoy muy de mañana dando gracias por su luz.
del corazón de mi pueblo tan amado.
Que viva mi nuevo México. Sí, Señor.
Con esperanzas de vivir el nuevo día, tan lleno de alegría es mi nuevo Sangre de Cristo es la sierra donde vivo, lindas montañas de Nuevo México, donde domina el cielo y las estrellas,
Pero no se comparan a lo lindo que eres tú. Que viva el norte y sus lindos pueblos, nuestras culturas y nuestra tradición, con esperanzas de vivir la nueva vida, tan llena de alegría, que viva nuestra nación.
bendito es mi lindo santuario.
Al pie de la laguna Santa Cruz, y más arriba son la sangre de Cristo, donde siempre estoy listo amaneciendo con su luz.
Del corazón de mi pueblo tan amado.
Que viva mi nuevo México, con esperanzas de vivir en la alegría, tan llena de alegría es mi nuevo México.
Thank you very much. We're going to go ahead and finish up with a couple of more songs, but the one that is very popular throughout is De Colores. And adiós. amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. Vuelta. Canta el gallo con el quiere, 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 quiere. La gallina con el cara, 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 cara. Los polluelos con el pío, 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 pío. Y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. Y por eso los grandes amores, muchos colores me gustan a mí. Gracias. Bienvenidos al programa virtual de los ciudadanos mayores de el año 2021. Muy agradecidos a todos los que están trabajando para hacer que resulte bien este programa. Muchísimas gracias a Jeremías, muchísimas gracias al doctor García.
Nos vamos con una marcha.
Nos marchamos para aquí.